Hey everybody, welcome to this live Retail Agentic ChatGPT Atlas demo. All right, we got some people streaming in here. First, a little housekeeping note. Of course, as Murphy's Law would dictate, someone is having a tree chopped down in my neighborhood, and if you hear a loud grounding sound, I do not share my house with an axe murderer or anything like that. It is a tree being ground up. So I apologize for any gnarly background noise you hear, but that's just par for the course. When you do a live stream, you can expect a little bit of everything to go wrong. So here we are. Welcome to my world. Okay, looks like we got, okay, good. We got some folks coming in here. Let me get my chat open. All right. Throw anything in there you want to see. All right. We got Liam and Matt. Welcome. Welcome YouTube. Welcome Substack. Trying a live stream over to Substack, and all the little boxes are checked. I can't view that one simultaneously, so hopefully it's working. And yeah, Becca, if you're out there, you could text me if that's working. That would be just good to know. All right, let's jump into this thing. So first, I just wanted to run you through a couple of slides. So what we're going to do is just reset and talk about what is Atlas and back up a bit. You may have seen some of my other streams where I follow the other agentic browsers, but if you haven't, I want to make sure you kind of know how we got to where we are and where ChatGPT's offering fits in with the rest of them. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the install experience and what that looks like. And then jump into the live demo where we'll actually load up Atlas and run it through some of its agentic shopping paces. Okay, so here's a little timeline of where we started. So the first agentic browser started coming out in late 2024. Some would argue there's a bunch of others out there that were maybe earlier, and there's some specialized B2B ones, and there's some for standard operating procedures and these kinds of things, but I'm kind of picking the big consumer ones that I'm mostly aware of. So this is meant to be representative, not a completist kind of thing. And that was called Brave. Interestingly enough, Brave is this kind of, I don't know if it's open source, but it's a browser company and that's been working on browsers for a while. And they came out with an agentic browser, but they also license their index. So a lot of the web answer or the answer engines actually they ingest the Brave index as well. So you'll see that Brave name come up a lot. I was not familiar with them, and then suddenly I saw them everywhere as I started digging into this. Neon came out with one called, or Opera, the browser company came out with one called Neon earlier this year. And then, basically, if you look at the timeline, starting in May of this year, there's basically been at least one, if not two, agentic browsers launched every month. So then we had Dia, and then in early July, we had Comet from Perplexity. So that one really set the bar pretty high. So we kind of had this escalation. The other two were pretty basic, and then Comet is like really, really good, and it's gotten even better since it came out. Many of you saw my live stream on that, and I got a lot of feedback on that. Thanks for watching it. And then Microsoft Edge came out with Copilot mode, and then Anthropic came out with Anthropic for Claude, and then Google came out with Gemini and Chrome. And I would say those three from the big incumbents. So I'll say Microsoft, Anthropic, they're not an incumbent, but because they're riding on the back of Chrome, and then Gemini and Chrome, they came out. And then it was a step down from Comet. I actually didn't do a live stream because I really didn't think I kind of don't really want to do this if I don't have anything nice to say. And, compared to Comet, they were maybe half as functional. And part of the reason is they kind of are in this super cautious state. So they kind of, they are very infantile in how they ask you a million questions, basically. So every time you want to do something, it's like, are you sure you want me to do this? Yes. Now, there is a risk when you use these agentic browsers. There's something called prompt injection, where nefarious websites can hide a prompt on the site. And when the agentic browser loads it, the underlying model may run what's in there. And so, in I'm not aware of that happening in production, but I think there's been some simulations or arena type things where people have been able to cause this problem, and it's something to watch out for. Personally, the way I get around that is I go to websites that are very known to me. So I'm going to go to Gmail. I'm going to go to Amazon. In today's demo, you're going to see me go to, very known e-commerce sites. I'm not, jumping off into a website I am not very familiar with, and I rarely do that. So it's not usually a huge problem for me, and I don't really worry about it. But it is something that everyone should be aware of. That if you are, if you're out there and you spend time on not the top 100 websites, it is a potential risk to be aware of. Okay, and then we knew over a year ago, it leaked that ChatGPT had hired a couple of the original developers of Chrome. And so we knew they were up to something. And you've probably heard me say this forever. It seems like it took forever. So we knew ChatGPT was up to a lot, and then there wasn't anything coming out. And then there was like GPT-5 hit, and then ever since this, it's been this relentless onslaught of things kind of coming at us. And sure enough, earlier this week, they dropped Atlas on us this Tuesday, and that's what we're going to walk you through. So let me move me so you can better see. There we go. So it's important to kind of understand how answer engines work. So the user is over here on the right, and they are doing their thing. They're browsing, and they go to one of the answer engines, be it, we have ChatGPT, Perplexity, Anthropic, Copilot, and X in this example. That has a web index. So this is what the new thing was with answer engines. Before, you only had the training data that was up to a year old at most of these systems. So it was giving you it was a bad search experience because the data wasn't fresh. And training isn't the same as a web index. So this was a huge up from just kind of traditional, just help me learn, really with the original LLMs before they had a web index. They were pretty good at helping you train things and learn systems, but they weren't really good for, they weren't going to compete with Google by any means, or becoming what we would now call an answer engine. So the genius is by adding a web index and giving the model access to this whole index of current things and training data, basically memories and knowledge, it is very powerful. And it's able to not only answer questions that it's been trained on, but feather in information that's newer. So there's two data sets in this setup. There's this kind of giant, terabytes of training data that's not stored in an index, and it's basically stored in weights. So it's basically learned. So it can't. Most times it can't just regurgitate it. So it's not rote. A web index takes the best parts, the highlights of a page and the page itself, and creates an index between what this page is kind of about and relevant, and then if you want the whole page, you can get to it. It doesn't store the whole page. Then there was this third thing that came along, and this is what everyone has. Anthropic has one of these. We'll just stick to the ChatGPT naming. So in January of this year, they came out with something called Operator, ChatGPT Operator. And what this did, it was really cool because they had come out with reasoning models in the prior year. They thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we just gave a reasoning model a computer and told it to do stuff? And that's basically what this does. The model can now go out to a server, spin up a virtual machine. We live in this fascinating world where you can just say, hey, AWS or Azure, spin me up a virtual machine, and I want it to be running, a browser only and sitting on top of some operating system, usually like a Linux derivative or something, doesn't matter. And you have this browser in the cloud that can then go do stuff, and that's pretty interesting. And it was interesting in that the LLM is doing a lot of work because it's looking at it, it's using image recognition, and it's pushing buttons like you would. It's acting like a human, which is a lot of effort for the LLM. They then announced an upgrade to that. That was called a research preview. And then they kind of, and it wasn't really clear why. You'll see the path. We now see clearly what was going on here. And then in July, they kind of said that's gone, and we have this new thing called Agent. And it's really Operator with like two generations of upgrades. So it was basically operator, still the virtual machine and all that, but it got much faster, much better, and it could chain together more stuff. I've used them both pretty heavily. Operator would lose its mind about 6 steps in. Like frequently, I would have it go for some other stuff I do. I would have it go to a LinkedIn, find some information, and put it in a spreadsheet. And it would get 4 deep, and then it would forget where it was. It couldn't find the first tab, and then it would just like lose its mind and just peter out. Agent could go much further, and it was faster, and it was much better at recognizing user interface elements. It's almost like they had trained. This is my speculation. They trained a more specific model for these human actions on websites. Okay. So this is the way Agent works. So the user's over here on the left, they use Agent. It goes over to, I assume, Azure, and it says, hey, I need a virtual machine. It spins up that little virtual machine down there. Now, this, and then it goes to the merchant's website. In the shopping context, it's good for a lot of different things. But in the shopping context, then it's going to go to the merchant site and push buttons like we would. The problem with that is, number one, because it just creates a machine in the cloud, it doesn't have any of your past login information. So you're constantly having to log in over and over again. And then if the virtual machine, and then after the session, the virtual machine stops, session 2, like let's say I go to Chewy, I order something, I log in, I'm like, oh, that was cool. Next time I do it, it'll be easier. Nope, it's a complete reset. So now you just have to do that over and over again. So it was not good for shopping. I find when I get in an argument with people around agentic shopping, they think I'm talking about ChatGPT agent. That is not what I'm talking about when I talk about agentic shopping. That is a bad shopping experience. But it's pretty good for websites that, that you want to extract information from that have no other way. Like I use it for LinkedIn if I want to like pull a list of companies in the triangle area where I am, for example, that kind of thing. Now, what happened pretty quickly is because this is server-based and it uses a bank of IP addresses, it's very easy for a website to block it. So for a while, you could use Amazon and this. And this was a way around. Amazon has blocked the web search piece of this, so they don't let any of the crawlers pull in their data. So Amazon's out of the web search index, and also the training index because they blocked the training bots too. So Amazon's not in the training data or the web index. So this was a way around. But then Amazon very quickly said, we don't like that, and we're going to block it. So they just put a do not enter sign there, and they basically block those bots. So now you can't use that to do anything agentically with Amazon. Okay, so before we had Atlas, we had this whole setup going on, kind of building on this. Number one, you had kind of the more traditional things people would use, which I'm going to start at the right and work left. We have the buyer. Oh, let me try this little pencil mode here. Oh, no, that's not going to work. Cancel. Discord changes. So you have the buyer there. He uses ChatGPT, which is hosted on Azure. It can access a web index. It can send a live bot over there to go get some pricing information, for example. The user finds what they're looking for. And then also what they've been doing is you could tell once they started putting these product cards up there, you knew they had a product catalog somewhere inside of the back end of ChatGPT. And so we knew they were scraping e-commerce sites, building a catalog, and then canonicalizing those items and showing us the product cards. So they would have, here's a canonical product, and here's the offers behind that canonicalized product. So we knew there was a catalog in there. And then we started hearing about ChatGPT checkout. And we now know there's what I call a merchant center. This is a place you can decide, I really would rather send you high fidelity data. You're still going to crawl my site for product data. I'm going to send you high fidelity data in the form of a now ChatGPT ACP data feed format. That's going to come to you in either JSON or XML or whatever format, CSV usually. They take that, and it's way more efficient to do that than crawling, and they put it into this giant catalog. So now we have a new thing. So we have our training data, which is one source of data, the web index. Now we have a product catalog, and then on top of that product catalog is what I call this kind of shopping, internal tool that ChatGPT can call. And that's what shows the product cards and stuff. As the user's asking questions, ChatGPT can say, okay, this user is getting close. I want to show them some products. Hey, internal shopping tool, I would like to show products. Here's what I know so far. It looks in that mega product catalog and pops the product cards with the offers. And then if they happen to have checkout connected, it'll say checkout is on for these. And then instead of it saying visit, you hit pay, and now you're into the checkout scenario. I haven't pictured that here, but that's all happening in this. And then you always had this like dangling other thing, which was you could still use ChatGPT agent. So that was like really confusing to people because you have two modes of using ChatGPT. You have the native kind of .com experience, or the an app, the ChatGPT.com experience, I'll just call it, or you had this like odd operator thing or /agent. So here's where we are now. So what's nice is Atlas pulls it all together. So now I'm using Atlas, and it has two modes inside of it. And the big change is it's still called Agent, but Agent has moved from virtual computer to inside of the user's computer. So it's living inside my browser. So it had to be outside because when you're in the browser, you can't control other tabs in the browser. So therefore, to control a computer, it had to go get a computer. Now that it lives inside the browser, now that it is the browser, and it has the high ground, I like to say, it can control it can't control your whole computer. It doesn't need to, but it can control your browser because it is the browser, if that makes sense. It is their browser. So they have given the agent component of Atlas the ability to manipulate the browser. And I'll show you what that means. I want you to kind of understand how they've re-architected this into one. There were all these kind of Lego pieces they built, and it felt super disjoint, but now they've put it together in a cohesive piece, which is pretty cool. As an engineering person, I like it when a good plan comes together. So now I, the user, and even the engine can specify, is this the right, which of these things should I use? Should I use all the stuff I just talked about, which is still in that little box there, these databases I have, or is this a better time to use my agent capability? And I'm going to show you different contexts where we could use that. The other thing is, you'll hear me say this all the time, the LLMs love two things. They love content and context. And nothing has, going from being a tab in a browser to the browser, just 1,000x's the amount of content and context you get. You now get access to email, if so allowed. You get calendar. Because you have that, you get purchase history. If the purchases happen in the browser, you can have memory of that. There is this thing, ChatGPT already had memory. Now they have browser memory. So now that's what they're calling this aggregate of stuff I've kind of put in the green box here. It knows where I've been. It knows where I'm going. If it looks at my calendar, it knows, when I'm busy and not, all these types of things. It knows your browser history. If you import your autofill, which would be your logins and passwords, it now has that. So that's portable. So that's nice. If any of the things you're using have MCPs and you connect them, it can see the context of that, and so on and so forth. So it is really a much more powerful experience to use an agentic browser, and Atlas is very good at this, and it has some neat kind of new things that are not in any of the other players. The other thing that I keep pointing out, and this causes a lot of arguments, so I'll put one little asterisk on it, but it's now unblockable, right? So it was very easy for, I'll just pick on Amazon, but any site that wants to block someone, usually when they see a human, they throw open the welcome door, right? I love humans, and you're logged in. I know you're Scott. You're a Prime user. I can see your purchase history. You buy a good bit from me. I want to show you, some other things that you can buy, so on and so forth. And then in my other tab, I have Agent running. So it's not a virtual computer anymore. It's on the same computer. And in fact, it's in the same browser. So it may be seeing traffic from me, the human, and Agent almost simultaneously and indistinguishable, because I frequently have multiple tabs open when I'm on Amazon. And there's no way for it to block it because it looks at the IP and it sees me, human. And then, so some people would argue there are ways to look at the way the agent moves the mouse and things of that nature. I'm a little skeptical about that. I don't think, if I was at Amazon and this had any false positives, the risk of blocking 300 million users due to a false positive is so high, that thing would have to be 100.000% before I block any users, because I have an economic incentive for people to come buy stuff. Now, if I'm a news site, I may take that risk or something like that. A content site, my content's so valuable, I'm willing to put up, steel bars in front of the store and not care about it. I don't think that's going to happen. So there's, I'm sure we'll have some LinkedIn naysayers jump on me for that, but that's my perspective. I don't think, even if they could, unless it was perfect, they're not going to do it, and I don't think it would ever be perfect. Okay, so when you get Atlas and you go to install it, the first thing it does is tell you to log in with your ChatGPT credentials, which you do. And then it pulls in it says, would you like to load an existing browser's settings? I chose my Chrome. And then I have 6, what are they called? Personas or profiles. I have 6 profiles in Chrome. I picked my profile and it slurped all that over. So that was very nice. So it has all my settings in Chrome, the sites I'm blocking, all this jazz. I had to install one extension I use a lot for this email program. I use Superhuman, and I was off to the races. So the install was very quick and easy. It's very, one thing you can say about Perplexity is really good at consumer app polish. ChatGPT is a level better. So Perplexity is an 8 in a world where most things are a 5, which is impressive. These guys are a 9.5. So the polish on this product is really neat. And I'll point out a couple of those things that I appreciate as a builder of software. The other thing it does really early on is it really, it's very permissioned, meaning it's going to give you some choices. And this one is browser memories, and this is what they're calling that ability for, the Atlas to see your browser history and all those things. And it says, do you allow ChatGPT to remember useful details as you browse to give smarter responses, and you're in control. You can. All these are private, but they do improve your experience. And it's default off, which is always good to see. If you're going to do something like this, it shouldn't be default on. And then I turned it on because I'm wanting the full experience. And then it talks a little bit about how to use it, and I'll show you that. And then it did this funny thing. It was kind of like, here's who you are, here's how many days you've been on Atlas, and then here's how long you've been on ChatGPT. I've been on ChatGPT longer than that, but under a different identity for a lot longer. And then here's just a little bit of anatomy of what we're going to see here. So this is, the site Retail Agentic loaded in, and not unlike all the other players, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a Ask ChatGPT window there. And then when you open that, a sidebar slides over, and you can have a conversation with the web page, basically is how I think about it, or the tab. It can see all your tabs that are open. My bookmarks have come across, and it also has access to my browser history. Okay. So that's the setup of what we're going to see here. And then we're going to jump into some live demos. So let's see if this works. Seems to be working. Let me go to this mode. Hopefully I won't. If I start to overlay, I'll pop myself back over to there. No. Like that? Okay, yeah. Here we go. All right. Still learning how all this works. So here I am, and I hit Ask ChatGPT, and I can say, another thing is you can kind of go in the browser and let's see, try to select something. I don't know why it does this. There you go. So, let's say you're busy, you see this headline, and you're trying to decide, should you listen to this podcast about Manil? So it knows I highlighted that. It tells us a little bit about him. And then what ChatGPT has gotten really good at generally, but in the browser context, it's really helpful, is asking a follow-up question. And it's usually kind of spot on. So it says, would you like me to pull additional background on him? Yes. So maybe he looks familiar, and I'm trying to think, have I ever crossed paths with this guy? And, so now it's going to give me a much deeper, it's gone out to, I don't know, Jeff Roster. It's gone out to a variety of places and pulled information about him, and gives us a whole dossier about Manil. And sure enough, that's pretty interesting. So I'm going to jump in and learn more. Which, shameless plug, you should definitely listen to that podcast. Some fun for your weekend. Another thing is, if you, here, I'll just show you this live. So this is the start window. We start at kind of a GPT-5 experience. If I come in here, number one, it's offering me agent mode. So we'll show you a different context of that, but it tells you what's going on. And then it's just kind of said, it makes all these recommendations and it's so spot on, it kind of freaks me out sometimes. So it's wondering if it wants me to map the agentic commerce landscape. Well, and this is where I end up spending a lot of time on these things. That's actually kind of helpful. And, let me do this news about. This probably doesn't come as a surprise to you, but this is something I look for all the time. So it's going to go and find some news. But what you see here that's kind of handy is we've got it kind of, this is like ChatGPT mode. There's a search mode. So this is it's a clone of Google basically. That's probably the wrong word, but a Google list kind of view. And what's really nice is you're like, oh, let's go see what Google does. So they almost want you to kind of compare to Google in a fun way. This is how you know when you have the high ground, is when you're like, yeah, go try Google, and then you'll come back. And over here, it goes an image search. So this is kind of nice. There was no way to do that before in the answer engine. So this is one of the reasons, this and maps are the reasons I still use Google still. So now we're down to maps. And then, videos, if you want to see any videos about this. Oh, Mark Mahaney. That's a really good one. Yep. I've actually, I knew I had seen that recently. And then news. So this is actually helpful too, because sometimes I want it to just show me the news. And then, again, if I do this, it will go over to Google News. So that's a neat little feature there. And this is kind of like in that polish camp. Another thing that I like, let's see if this works. Some of these animations may not work on screen sharing. But I frequently, I have, you may find this hard to believe, but I have between 4 and 6 screens in my workstations, and I'm moving tabs around a lot. I'll actually pull them out of a browser and move them. That was an early Chrome invention. And in Chrome, it takes the whole browser window and it makes it giant. And sometimes I'll go to a smaller monitor, and that just drives the whole system crazy because it can't fit on there, and it's like constantly moving it around. So that was kind of an annoyance. I'm in my head, the engineers at Atlas had this problem. They're like, oh, we know how to solve that. So when I pull the tab out, it creates a little mini version of it. Can you see that? So that's like the little mini version of the tab. And then I can just put it over here. And then if I want to, I can say, oops, and you can miniize it and put it over there. Oops, I missed it. And this is another little, okay, wait, I'll do this so you can see better. Then when I pull it out, it tells me it's going to land up here by doing a little slide. And then it shows me where it's going to land. You can't see it because the live stream, I think, is blocking it. But let's see. I'll do this over here. All right, I'll do that again. All right, so it's out here, and I'm gonna move it back, and you can see it goes up there and slides, and then it's really nice how it animates and show me that. So that's like a little polish thing that I just really appreciate. This type of stuff is hard to do because you're always doing the core stuff and it gets left off the list, but it's really nice how they've done these polished things. I appreciate that. Okay, let's go. Let's start with something kind of hard and see what we have. So I'm going to say, find the twice baked potato and chicken parm. I looked at recently. Okay. So what it's doing is it's going to start searching my browser memories. And it's found my favorite twice baked potato recipe and a good chicken parm recipe. And it says, would you like me to create an ingredient list? So I'm actually going to say yes. I'm going to go into agent mode. Oops. I have to do this. I'm going to agent mode. And I'm going to say, create a ingredient list for both dishes and place an order at Instacart in Raleigh at the Publix close to me. Okay, now we're in agent mode. So watch this animation that's going to happen here. It's creating the ingredient list. Can you see that? Did you see it's got, I call it the sparkle or the crackle. It's the Atlas crackle. Okay, so it's pulled up this one recipe. It's doing its thing. I'm going to put this over here. Okay, this is where I got in trouble with my previous live demo with comment. I got too many things going on, but let's see. We're going to push it a little bit. All right, while I'm doing that, while I'm preparing my meal for the weekend, I'm going to go over here. I have loaded Chewy, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT, hey, I need to reorder 2 packs of the small dog veggie dents. Can you do that and add to cart and hit the buy button without asking for anything? Okay, so I'm simultaneously building my grocery list off the recipe pages and then going over here. Yes, it still kind of really wanted me to confirm with a button that I wanted to do that. To any OpenAI people watching, that would be nice. If I tell it, I've kind of explicitly already given my permission, but I get that you may want, there may be a legality there. The legal team probably made him do that. All right. It is having a hard time. So it's Instacarting. If this doesn't work, I tried one time where it did the ingredient list and then I did Instacart and it worked flawlessly. So we'll see. I think it has 2 windows open inside there. That's why we're seeing kind of the grayed out area. But over here, over on the right hand side, it's ordering my veggie nuts. It's I don't know if you saw, but it's gone and got the right ones. It got them out of my reorder history. So I gave it the context. I said reorder, and that was my clue to it that you need to. I don't want just any of the ones. I want the ones I reordered. So it went and found the ones I need to reorder. It appears the add to cart button after selecting the buy once option. Great. Now I need to set the quantity to 2. I'm going to check the drop box and let's proceed. Scrolling to find add to cart. Where's the add to cart button? Can it find it? There it is. And it's set the quantity to 2. It's added to cart. Doo-doo. And it's going to go down to proceed to checkout, I imagine. Let's see. Go down. So if you ever used Operator or Agent, this is actually even better because it's not using a virtual machine. So because it's local, it's faster. So it doesn't have to have server to client communication for every back and forth. So it's just naturally faster. The model doesn't seem faster. The finding on the pages isn't that much faster. But that's it. All right. It is now in here. Everything's ready, and the buy button is just 1 click away. According to policy, I need your confirmation before completing the purchase. Would you like me to proceed and finalize the order? Yes. Okay. Now, purist out there may not call that agentic because I had to type yes twice, but I think that's pretty cool because I'm multitasking here and getting a lot done. Come on, you can find it. Don't tell it, but the purchase button's down lower. I can't. It's like down. It really wants to do GPay. It did GPay. I don't know if I have that wired up. Okay. I'm going to look here. Where did the buy button go? That's strange. All right. I'm going to go back to the home page here. Oops. There was probably Chewy is now in a bad state. I don't know what's going on with that. Did you guys see that? I think their GPay integration is like totally flaked out. All right, we're gonna reset that. That is a Chewy problem, not a Alice problem. Oh, there's some weird cookie set now or something. There must be some Chrome to GPay communication that is like just totally zapped up. All right. I don't know why it clicked on that time. Previously, I had not. So that was one of that experience. Here's another thing you can do. Over here on the left, we're looking for some ground black pepper. So what it's doing is it's going ingredient by ingredient, and it is then taking it and adding it to the Instacart kind of behind the scenes here. We'll see how it comes up. So I'm going to find this, and I'm going to say, let's see. Ask it about this. Trust Amazon, but I'm going to verify that this S2725DS monitor is a good price at $157.99. Yep, so it's going to go look at its index, and it's going to find it here. It's kind of chatty right now. It's asking me if it wants just new or any used ones. I may have been too ambitious adding 2 recipes. It's adding a lot of ingredients. Now we're doing breadcrumbs. There's a way to expand this. It's kind of cool. So you can, here we can go see the whole chain. So look at all the work it's done over here. Okay. Cheddar, milk. This is interesting. It knew it had to. It wants a cup, so it's either going to get a half gallon or a quart. It went for the Publix brand. It's got this salt. Holy cow. It's been very busy over there. All right. Now over here, it's given me a little table. It's hard for it to pop up product cards. So you have this kind of situation here. And it says, conclusion, Amazon's price is the lowest. So prior to Alice, I was not able to do anything involving Amazon, but here I am. And in fact, I can say, let's see if I can get it to invoke agent. Sometimes this is an area they need to work on. So I'm going to say, add it to the cart for me. Say yes. Okay, it invoked it that time. That's good. So we get the crackle. So it's added to cart. You must think I'm very lazy. I'm just demonstrating. I could have done that myself, I'm pretty sure. So there we go. So now it's going to verify. So it has a nice verification kind of mode, and it's found it there. All right. Let's kind of do this from this context. So let's say I'm here and say, I am looking for over on the left, we're in mozzarella cheese, a 27-inch. That must be the chicken parm. It seems like maybe it's moved on to chicken parm. Let's update here. All right, chugging along. Monitor, it needs to be Mac M4 compatible with a USB-C. I had someone tell me you would never use Agentic Commerce for shopping for a monitor, and I was like, I have to every time because it's so. I can't tell you how many monitors I've ordered, and it won't work with my particular system. The USB-C display port, and I'd like it to be 4K UHD and 60 hertz or better. Okay, so this is the kind of prompt that you would need to use filter nav on a traditional Amazon or Best Buy search experience. And it's very quickly understanding this, and it's picked 3 or 4 models for me. So I'm going to do this one, and yeah, that is there. And then I can do agent mode and say, now this is pretty wild what's going to happen. Get ready. Over on the right, over on the left, we're down into, it's gotten a little lost. It got 2 cheddars, so it's trying to work. It's got a cheese problem. It's trying to reconcile. It's got a cheddar and mozzarella. It'll work through that. Okay, now if I did this right, okay, it shifted ChatGPT over in the sidebar. I had the product card expanded, so now it's shown me the product card, and it knows I'm comparing Dell at 438.39, Staples at 388, and Best Buy at 499. And then now it is showing me a different monitor. Wait, what's it doing? Okay. It's very confused now. There. Okay. Okay. I looked through the pages you viewed. That's why you previously visited this one. Nope. No, I want the Dell one. Okay, I think it didn't really grasp the Dell part of what my prompt was. That prompt's on me. All right, let's go back. Reset here. Let's see. Let's do this. Reset. Go back to here. And then here. And maybe I'll select it. Maybe this will help. Find out if this Dell. Okay, I think I'm down over on the left. Let's see what state it's in. P2725QE is cheaper on Amazon.com. Okay. I think it got lost. I compiled ingredient lists for the twice baked potatoes. Here they are. All items show 1 in cart on Instacart, which indicates they've been added successfully. The cart is ready for checkout. Let's go see. Instacart. Okay. Bloop. Let's look at these. How do you get into the cart? Continue shopping. Cart. There. Potatoes. This looks good. Do I have any chicken? That's going to be kind of important for this whole thing. Chicken. Okay. I can neither confirm nor deny, but all I have to do is go to checkout, and I have got my chicken and potatoes. So that is a win over there. I don't know why it didn't show the site inside of the Crackle. I think that may be because I'm web sharing here. All right, we're coming up on time here, so I just want to see what she's doing over here. It is good. We do seem to be actually searching for the product, so it was on me. I gave it a bad. When I said this, I didn't give it enough context, which is very important, as I've said 1,000 times. So what's it doing? Even though your Mac can output this, okay, it's telling me all about that. Oh, that's the old stuff. I dug into Amazon for this and pulled up 2 active listings. One seller is having it at $474, while another is at $499. Dell listed at $439. Amazon's offering are higher. How about that? So it isn't cheaper there at the moment. Did Amazon block me? No, they did not. They cannot, they will not, and they are not going to block me. So I now can agentically shop on Amazon and check their prices using this type of a system. So very handy. All right. I hope you have enjoyed this live demonstration of ChatGPT Atlas. We did a Chewy reorder. It got a little sideways due to Google Pay, but we'll chalk that up to a early experience bug somewhere in the connection there. I have done that before and it worked. I'm not exactly sure what happened this time. I did a very complex multi-item order on Instacart. It filled the cart with the 19 things we had. It reconciled my cheese situation, and then it figured out how much of each thing to order based on what's available. And all I had to do was press the add button, and then I showed you how you can use it in different swapping around contexts to order a monitor. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining us today. If you missed anything or want to zoom in, this will be on live stream, and we'll put the slides up as well on Retail Agentic sometime next week. Thanks. Everyone have a great weekend. And, you may have big plans, but if you carve off an hour and play with Atlas, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by the experience. Bye, everybody.